And this draft, what are we going to think of? We'll think about that alongside you, everyone, for game one of the day.
Good segue, mate.
Worth noting, this is important thing, just saw there as well, Kepler is playing over Xiaoyu.
Ah.
So Kepler is playing, not Xiaoyu. And we have now a different AD carry match. We were saying how Weibo, a lot of times when they play, it is about light team fight impact.
So the last time I was seeing Kepler, he was playing in Nest and did actually a lot of work. Him on things like Xayah, his ability to carry in mid and late game was very, very potent. And even when the team as a whole was struggling on Nest, he was not. He became something of a superstar across that tournament, actually. Of course, has been playing a little longer than some of those LDL players, has been around a bit more. But coming up to the main team, I think that makes some sense if you're wanting that kind of player to work with.
I love that because that mirrors how Light has been on Weibo.
I know.
Weibo's philosophy has been, let's hope Light can carry in late game. This team has struggled. 6 and 7. Remember, this is the team that went to World's Finals. Yes, they coin flipped their way there, but they were there nonetheless. 6 and 7 right now. They're hell, technically they're still in contention for playoffs in terms of it hasn't been determined yet. If they lose a series here, it could be very detrimental to that. It's going to be the Nautilus first lock-in. It potentially threatens a Senna, which has been falling away in the LPL recently. We've not seen nearly as much of it, partly because a lot of the lane-dominant champions have been getting through draft. And on the other side, a strong top side from Weibo as LGD focus on bot.
That's exactly it. And we saw a pretty monstrous Renekton game from Shanji yesterday. We know the champion can be pretty strong right now. And part of it, again, is it's one of those champions you feel like you can build a number of things on depending on the game state, depending on your lane matchup, and feel like you'll at least have a way to get into the game, even if it's not the best in class. The response will be the Ari, which has been raising once again in priority. That's great. All these horrible ways of saying priority. But what I'm basically saying is, alongside the Nautilus, we've already got a very potent duo of pick champions.
Ari is very, very good when you have heavy CC to set up for your ult and for your damage. Potentially with Birdle going towards a carry champion on top side as well. He is going towards what I believe is his first Rumble of the split so far. He has been playing an awful lot of Aatrox, so now he's going towards a bit more of a team fight champion through the front and center rather than the flanking threat of the Aatrox. A lot of CC, a lot of magic damage, which can affect those team fights.
Well, Rumble's kind of fallen away from his first pick and banned priority. It does feel like the champion's still pretty good, and the right matchups, you can be pretty damn lethal. Of course, you've already got some good setup. So the equalizer roll out on the red carpet before we get picked feels pretty good. It is going to be the response of the Annie, which I know you've been talking about relatively prolifically as a good answer in lane to the Ahri and forces some different items at least out of her.
Runes most of the time. The items I actually don't think have to change that much. Well, you can go towards Banshees, but I think at that point it's kind of more about how the game state's going and if other stuff is threatening as well. But this is actually his second Rumble game. I missed one on there. It was a loss, so he's looking to get himself out of the red on that one. Weirdly, on the red carpet champion. So now, big AoE team fight champions for both Weibo and for LGD. I think for players like Xiaoyu who have been struggling, he is no longer the Emperor of Spring that we knew him to be. At least no, he hasn't awoken to that point right now. It does feel, to borrow a phrase from Rizal, one of those sleeping giants. The Annie, much like it is for Yagao, one of the real power picks that Xiaoyu had last year to take over games.
Yeah, there go the Zeri and the Senna as well. Well, note that Smolder, as far as I can see, has remained up this entire time, which is very unusual for to go all the way through this pick and ban, but it also now means that with those two AD carries gone, there's a world where it gets fourth picked here by Weibo if it's not banned by LGD, and it is left down, so that tells me LGD have got something spicy planned for a potential Smolder pick on 4. They must do, surely.
Well, this is the thing now. If you lock in Smolder, you're going to be contested by this Jinx, which has been turning up in priority. We've seen Assume play a lot of it. We also saw Photic crack out some games of this for NIP just yesterday as well, and that was one of our more powerful games on the champion. If you lock in Smolder now, I think that you're likely to get, very difficult laning phase and potentially even outscaled by what the Jinx can do. It's weird saying that Smolder can get outscaled, but problem is, games don't last 40-50 minutes where you can actually bring that back. Really, at the 30-minute mark, things can go a bit weird, and maybe you're wondering about something which can be a bit more 2-item focused rather than the 3-item of the Smolder. That's why they're hovering the Aphelios and the Xayah, both of which Light has had some pretty good moments on this split.
I suspect it may end up defaulting to the Xayah. It's the champion that Kepler's probably most known for. Of course, things like the Aphelios do fall in his wheelhouse, but there it is. There's that Xayah I would kind of expected. It's perhaps a little safer to leave alone if the Nautilus is roaming around as well, and has been seen into things like the Jinx. It does match that kind of scaling. When you've already got a little bit of dive, things like the Annie and the Lee Sin jumping for your head, having that ultimate for the safety can feel pretty good.
So Light and Crisp have been known to fall behind in laning phase before. Nautilus Xayah, very, very strong 2v2. When the kill lanes are already out, when you don't have the Kalista and the Varus, it feels like stuff like Nautilus and Xayah have really taken a lot of priority. Tahm Kench locked in for Crisp, so that'll be an answer to the Nautilus and a lot of the one-and-click CC. It can come in from that champion. Feels like we have two very early to mid-game compositions. It feels like the first fights of the game, particularly when you've got Ahri resets and of course Jinx getting excited as well, can just explode. So for me, I'm really looking to see for adequate vision coverage, for helping out what could potentially be, the Xin Zhao, Lee Sin, early kind of dueling match early into the game as well, and setting up really effectively for these first big team fights of the game. That's where the game's going to be decided.
Eyes on those, and eyes on the AD carries, of course. Kepler a long way from Joy Dream. Of course, was JDG's academy team. Before that was on JJ Howe, which was one of the few unaffiliated teams in the LPL. That's kind of where he was before. Played a little bit on Thunder Talk back in the distant past as well, but it's been a little while since he's been in the LPL proper. Spent a lot of his time in the LDL, and seeing how well he'll play will be a different kind of question to be asking, of course. Just checking up that Xayah win rate. I think he is something like 10 and 12 all time. So again, I'm pretty okay. Ironically, I think the Jinx is the better champion for him by the looks of it. But my memory of Nest was his Xayah in particular being an absolute terror. So stepping in for Xiaoye, stepping in for another one of those LDL AT carries and looking to perhaps light the world on fire a little bit, as some of those rookies really have over the last 6 months or so.
And it's been a time of changing of the old guards. EDG and RNG not in playoffs for the first time in LPL history for both of them.
Yes.
Now, they've both individually missed it once, I believe. This will be the second time for the both of them, and second time, third time, definitely not the charm for them. Feels like, though, with the old guard changing somewhat in terms of organizations and some of those players as well, there have been some spaces for new blood to fill in the cracks.
Whether or not that new blood is up to snuff is perhaps a better question at this point. Our eyes inevitably drawn towards that bot side with what's down there because of how important those AD carries will be as the game goes on, but also realistically early on you've got to be looking at things like a Xin Zhao, Ahri, Nautilus and where the hell they decide to turn up, and similarly a Lee Sin and a Nani, if they start making some plays particularly around that level 6 mark, could be the catalyst for the start of the action, even if the location of it perhaps a little bit more up in the air.
And speaking of kind of like the Lee Sin Annie versus the Xin Zhao Ahri Nautilus, obviously you don't mention the Tahm Kench there for Crisp. Crisp has been one of these players who has very much prioritized having ranged champions over melee ones. He's got a very poor win rate on the melee champions, it's worth noting. I believe at some point he was completely winless in melee and only had all of his wins on ranged instead. Stuff like the Renata. The Rakan's kind of the halfway house, and he actually did have some wins on that one as well. But Crisp, I feel like, changes the way that this team plays the game. When you have something like a melee support, you're looking towards like roaming towards the rest of the map, but what that does mean is less pressure for Light in lane and less ability to just say, Light, go do the thing. Later into the game, I think Crisp has been very impactful on the range supports to just allow Weibo to play towards the AD carry. This Jinx, though, can start comboing onto some of the aggressive combos. You throw that ult forwards from the Jinx, post level 6, very, very powerful one-shot combos.
Deadly to work with, and of course when you have got things like the Ahri and the Lee Sin, it's kill first combo, or it's kill first target. Everyone puts all their DPS to get Jinx excited and she runs over the rest of the team fight is the basic idea, of course.
Really good spacing from Light there, just backstepping on a lot of the damage and getting AoE rocket damage onto both Xin Zhao and Kepler. So early laning phase going well for Light. The thing about Jinx is that because of the rockets, you do get yourself very good wave control from the very first few levels of the game. Sometimes things can change, even with the Xayah matchup, particularly once you get to the ultimates, because Xayah actually has assassination potential in a 1v1 onto a Jinx. Once you get past that ultimate, you can dodge out on a skill shot or the ult, or even just an auto sometimes, and look for huge feather pullbacks.
That's the plan, at least. We don't have to make it to that stage of the game as yet, as Birdall really putting the hurt down on top. So it's level 3, and there is an ignite, which means ZDZ has to be very careful, of course. There's been a lot of community talk around ZDZ, and it was always going to be a hard role to focus. Of course, he's filling in for the most popular player in the LPL in the Shy. who, despite a very mercurial regular season, did help the team get towards a World Finals. And I think ZDZ has been playing pretty well, considering the shoes he has to fill, but it's not been the shine, and that's been a very hard thing for him to manage, I think.
It's just in terms of name value, ZDZ is just not that player, one of the greatest players of all time, and even though it's 2023, despite what people think, it's actually quite difficult. ZDZ has also been a bit of a pain point. We do see Meteor towards the bot side, as Jin Zhao did miss his last hook. That'll be on a longer cooldown, but there is going to be potentially a 3v3. Ghost pop from Light though, and he'll be safe.
Does pop it relatively early. Meteor now spotting themselves out. Crisp going to get jumped on with an audacious charge, and a wind becomes lightning. The chompers are pretty good. And actually now with Xiaohao coming on down, this might turn into something a little bit more. LGD, have you overstepped? The Q lands, will go forward, but then that just means a staggering blow straight afterwards. Now forcing a flash out of Jin Zhao as the Q comes through. Xiaohu's actually here. It is absolutely everyone! Flash for the double disintegrate, but he gets hooked at the turret! It's going to be a 2-for-1.
Oh, and Xiaohu leaves lane to make a play bot side. Xiaohu flashes, misses the Q, still gets the slow. Is he going to be able to walk away with the kill? No, he doesn't. So Weibo, they walk away with 2 kills towards the bot side of the map, giving 1 themselves. Haichao, sadly for him, can't really get anything more than just a wave shoved into mid lane, so shame that he can't do anything more. And this is one of the things that we worried about with the Annie versus Ahri matchup. We saw that right from the early game. Haichao was pushed under turret. That allows Xiaohu on the Annie to get down towards bot lane very, very early. We did say, you know, Xin Sao, Lee Sin, very strong 3v3 bot lane champions. The first level of Safeguard, the first level of all of Xin Sao's abilities. Of course, he's level 4 as well, so it's a little bit higher than that. Very dangerous. And Light gets himself, you know, lethal tempo stacked up. Jin Zhao body blocks though, so it means that Kepler isn't immediately taken out. You don't get a clean reset. If you get yourself a clean reset, maybe we have a different question here as to how this play was meant to go. Of course, Meteor's kind of caught behind the back here, and you know, you think this double stun should be the double kill easy enough. It's not quite that, doesn't quite have the damage, but still, the roam time was good.
Yeah, if getting a flash double incinerate feels really nice. That's a very good side step there from Jin Zhao to hold on to people as best they can, or hold on to their life as best they can, perhaps the best way of putting it, as the people sadly had passed away by that point. But still a good start from Weibo. It's a good roam from Xiaohu to utilize the lane pressure they have, and ready. Good start. Meteor will head towards the Grubs, feeling a little bit sheepish after the gank he pulled off got counted so efficiently. I'll also note for the edification of those Ahri Nymaera fans out there, it is a Dark Seal early on for Haichao.
It's an early game. You've got Lee Sin, you've got Xin Sao, and you've got some supports which can start off fights as well. And if it's an early game where there's a lot of snowballing, you want to be able to get some extra value from those kills, if it's all possible. Level 6 hit in the mid lane. See the Xiaohao misses his ultimates.
Oops.
In mid lane. That one very much more towards the Care Bear experience of hugs and cuddles rather than fire and death.
Yeah, that one didn't work out quite the way they were hoping for. I could see what the angle was, but it's a solid backstep, and not all that much. All the while, though, Weibo Gaming will take the opportunity to start up this early dragon. Cloud Dragon first up, and with Annie buying at least priority in mid lane to get into the river, it feels okay. But now LGD have had enough time, and they're going to be able to get over here and start fighting themselves.
Okay, question is, if you give up 1 kill on the other side, there could be a reset. Careful.
Kepler's throwing down a lot of feather pulls. They're going to get 1 kill onto the Nautilus, and Jinx is excited, but to the backside goes Haichao. A lot of damage back, and Kepler and Haichao completely untouched until just now. Xiaohu's out of mana. Light needs to run away. The feathers get pulled again. Finally, Kepler's brought down. Light excited once more, but it's not enough to get away from a flash from Haichao for a kill and a load of Dark Seal stacks.
7 stacks on the Dark Seal by 7 minutes. By the way, each of them is 4 AP. For 350 gold, he's effectively got himself most of a needlessly large rod because he's picked it up in this very early game. Huge acceleration from the mid laner of LGD, despite the fact that it has been Xiaohu trying to start these plays. Haichao has been the one now to pick them up. It's been a while since we've managed to talk about him in kind of glowing reviews. He's had some awkward games in the mid split. He's overplayed himself. I would have said he's outplayed himself a lot. This time, though, he plays himself into real contention in this game. See that Meteor waits for his basic abilities to come back up, gets some good burst damage. The kill actually gets him to level 6 as well, which is a nice little bonus for him. Light goes down. Great play on the bot side for LGD. After the play from Xiaohu in mid lane means that Haichao has the HP to have that, because if Xiaohu hits that Annie earlier, that Annie Tibbers earlier, then there is no health for that Ahri to make that play.
Very different indeed. Looks like Bird will burn the Ignite at some point top side, and ZDZ down the Dominus. So there is perhaps something to be a little alarmed about. Of course, it's still Light with 2 kills, feeling okay about the game state. And Kepler, for all of it, was a solid fight from the Zyre. Actually, great feather placements. Came at the cost. Actually, Hai Chao. Oh, sorry, Xiao Hao. There we go. Got so many Xiaos and Haos and to work around with this one. I wondered whether you think about going over the Raptor pit. Does not do so. Instead, we can back towards that bot side. The Kepler is still down. A little bit of CS, a little bit of that lane pressure. Partly because he had to see a little bit to go to that last fight. And 2, because obviously did die in that earlier roam from Xiaohu and crew.
So LGD, they have themselves a lot more gold in pocket than they would have felt they had any right to, especially after the 2-for-1 early on. It feels like Weibo, in this early game, are a threat now. Hook lands.
Crisp still has flash and heal, so shouldn't really be any dangerous. The Chompers actually kept 3 people there. The ultimate is blocked by Kepler, but now Kepler chunked to about half HP for blocking that for his support. So it is still going to be the side of Weibo Gaming with the HP bar advantage in this bot lane for now.
So, LGD, the real question is, I think, what happens when they hit the 1 item. I think now their ultimates are back up. Potentially, they can look to respond to another play. I think it's a little hard to make their own play right now. Maybe they're waiting on Ginger to make his own play. ZDZ is getting... There's no Ignite here, but...
It's a lot of DPS back. ZDZ not quite at the dominance. About to get it now. But can't quite properly punish the timer.
ZDZ, as he said, just gets himself that Dominus, which is completely fine for him, and he'll now be high enough health to get himself some rage, some wave clear, get himself through that minion wave. So, Weibo, they're losing in top lane, 3 kills on the enemy mid lane. They do have a strong AD carry, and it's Light. It's Light on Jinx. He's done an awful lot of work with this champion over the last few years, and it feels like with 2-1 and 2, he is very early into the game by his standards. The last hope for Weibo in some regards. It's like, okay, come what may, even if we're failing in other roles, this guy will end up having impact. So LGD going towards topside on the grubs. This will be 6. That's all of the XP over to Meteor, and of course the huge might buff, the maximum one available to LGD. If you do see ZDZ getting pushed back in lane, it's going to be a big issue for him because of those might tower destroying potential.
Could definitely be a difficult thing to manage, that's for sure. So it stands with the fact that Rumble's got the shove in the top side, and don't think Annie or the Renekton for a little bit are going to be able to manage that very scary mech on one side. The shove that LGD can get could prove a little bit difficult to manage. Over we go towards second Dragon Xiaohu here on the flank with the ultimate this time.
Doesn't have stun right now. He'll have it in one more ability cast. You can see him charging it up.
Meteor throws down the Crescent Gold, goes to the backside of the Devourer, immediately comes out onto Light, who gets knocked up regardless with the depth charge. Hai Chao going forwards, landing the charm, trying to get some damage back. Meteor gonna go in, gets jumped and turned around on, and now the damage back is too huge. The charm to ward off Light does so briefly, but it is still Weibo Gaming that deny the shove super well.
So ZDZ, he can't answer to the fight, but either way, Weibo, I thought after, once again, was a bad Tibbers. It didn't have the stun charged up on it. Xiaohu missed times or missed combos his ultimate there. I thought that Weibo would once again be having a bad fight towards the bot side, but this time they get themselves a kill for their trouble. Light with the threat of resets means that LGD don't stick around that fight anymore. So Weibo, he's getting himself something. Ignite once again, still down for Birdall. ZDZ, Dominus coming up in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, went to try and force him back, and actually with the ability to E, Q in with that Cull the Meek, flash forward, but there's a Dominus afterwards. The damage in face, though, is so huge! ZDZ has to flash away, and they cannot secure the kill. An Electro Harpoon would have done it, but this fish will not be landed right now.
Oh man, ZDZ really struggling towards the top side, and again, a player with a lot of eyes on him after filling in the shoes of the Shy. Definitely has to keep himself on his toes. So, Chomp is in a really good spot here. Stop Meteor getting a clean combo in. You can just see that really is just going a little bit too deep. After that Crescent Guard is down, Knockup does not cleanly come through. Of course, I think maybe Meteor was baited in by saying, haha, of course, the Tibbers is down. There is no stun. Of course, there's a bar under Andy's HP bar. But gets stunned up immediately as he goes in.
Yeah, and you can see as well, there's not actually all that much MR right now. So Annie at this point with the Malignus and Sword Pen boots does a lot of damage. Is Weibo looking to throw in a rotation to get towards this top lane and shut down Birdall a little.
Jinx, very, very good at killing turrets, but there are 6 grubs on the other side for LGD. So the grubby tubbies, as I like to call them, will be once again re-airing for LGD. Hook into bot side, and ZDZ dead to rights.
Slice, but no dice, goes down. That's a kill onto Meteor. Birdall Doesn't quite have the equalizer available.
Oh, if he cleared this wall, there was a potential of Xiaohao jumping into his lane. Xiaohu now showing on vision, though. He means he knows he is safe in that regards. And now, with ZDZ not there to potentially wave clear, he didn't have Dominus anyway. Would have been unlikely for him to do so. With Kepler getting solo turret there. Now, Xiaohao, Crisp, and Light looking to... He has no flash. He's gone too far.
Yeah, he was trying to get in range to perhaps get the experience for the lane. Just nowhere left to run. This will be donated over to Light, who picks up his 3rd kill of the game. That's nicely managed, and Birdle, I know what you were looking for, mate, but you just had to say I can't get in range for the XP.
Might be a chance for Meteor to W flash, and there he goes.
Remember, there's still no Devour quite yet, and right just now, Crisp now does it. Throw the depth charge afterwards, still difficult to manage. Down goes Xiaohao, still trying to run away. Xiaohu here with the stun bar available means anything more unlikely to be be for LGD.
Yeah, but hero play from Crisp manages to save Light, and then managed to tunnel out as well with the Abyssal Voyage to make sure that his... compatriot can get out. He managed to time it, so no CC was there to save or stop him from doing that one. So LGD walking away with a good response topside. They get themselves full turret on bot side. They get themselves towards Herald, so they're going to get themselves a lot of gold in pocket. And as we return to the point saying, hey, a lot of these champions are very early game focused. Lee Sin, stuff like Annie can be too. Renekton can be. Ari, Shinsao, all of these champions can thrive right from the start of the game. Feels like LGD are just about getting the best out of it right now.
Wow, Xiaohu did not enjoy that one at all. Down to about 20% HP. Doesn't quite have the teleport. We'll want to reset soon anyway, because there would be a second dragon on the table, and that's what Weibo have been indexing into, is these dragon fights.
Yeah, they have been, and they've been trying to play around Xiaohu grouping up to be some teamfight engage. Has it worked all the time? No, but they have been looking towards it. And you can see from that trade there, Haichao is effectively playing with 1,000 extra gold, and particularly in a snowbally game. Very, very strong for him. And that's just from the Dark Seal stats, rather than the gold from the actual kills as well. So he's probably playing as though he's about 2,000 to 2,500 gold ahead of Xiaohu. He does have his ult, he does have flash, and he will see Xiaohao. He's going to try and run away. If this is a 2v2, I feel like Weibo might be biting off more than he can shoot.
Could all be a bait as yet. Xiaohao does get kicked, needs to be a bit afraid, will begin to ult on forward. Xiaohao dangerously low as Haichao just wrecks face, and it's all a mess. The Tippers comes down again to no avail. And Haichao now 4-0-2, fully stacked Dark Seal, another kill to Meteor, and your jungler's dead when you're supposed to be fighting around Dragon in 20 seconds.
Weibo did not have the information to take that fight, and Xiaohao misses another important cue to potentially allow at least a trade back. It doesn't end up happening. Weibo lose their jungler again. Remember that Xiaohao is a player who's got eyes on him as well, because he has a replacement waiting for him in the background. Yes, Yodang has struggled. It hasn't been the answer for Weibo, but still, not a player who is safe in his starting spot right now.
Unfortunately, it doesn't feel like Xiaohao has been the answer, especially either player gold up on the left-hand side of your screen. Light leading the way, 3-1-3 on the Jinx is still going to be that last light of Weibo Gaming at the end of the tunnel to try and be a freight train to break down LGD, but Haichao and Kepler both doing just fine in the gold themselves.
I just wonder, okay, it's not going to be the Magi's as a second item. I think that would have been good, because again, snowbally game, no magic resist really built up just yet. We've got the Hex Drinker for ZDZ, but honestly, that's not Haichao's target. Doesn't necessarily need that. He is going for the Liandry's as a second item. I think he just thinks that because there are double AP solo laners, he needs to build up some burn damage, potentially going to a Crippling third, just to make sure he's future-proofing his build against any further magic resist. Xiaohu teleports in, has himself ult, is seen on a ward though, double teleport.
A nice little flame chompers there on the back end of where the jungler was going to drop out. Meteor coming crashing down the weapon, not before taking one with him. The Nautilus goes down as well, and LGD hold on and now fight their way into a solid win as Kepler just immediately cleanses the CC. Haichao on the other side eviscerates Light, and Weibo Gaming thought they had the flank, and it was just a disaster in waiting.
Oh my god, this early game can't go any worse for Weibo. Their first play towards bot side should have been 2 clean kills, ends up as a 2 for 1. Their first plays towards Dragonfight, well, okay, they give a triple kill over to the Ari. That's a problem as well. This has continued throughout the entirety of this game. Haichao is absolutely absurdly fed 2 items very early into the game, again with the 10 stack Dark Seal. How this starts is a Herald charge in the mid lane. We said, hey, you know, it feels like LGD. They're getting themselves big tower push with the Mites and the Herald. Big problem objectively for Weibo. ZDZ cannot even frontline against Kepler. Zyra is one of the best tank killers or frontline killers in the game, and if you don't focus on them, then that feather pullback will end your fight, as Haichao does some extra dirty work to end some other people's fights on the back end.
Flash ult and a Foxfire claims the life of the Jinx, and yeah, you can run fast, Jinx, but can you run faster than a Flash and 3 ult Ari? Not really is the answer. Now with the double Leandries in as well, you've got HP stackers in Crisp, in High, in Xiaohao, even in things like like the Tibbers, even in things obviously like ZDZ. Those burns are going to be really difficult to manage at this point in the game, and interrupt on the Dredge line though could put Jinzhao into a difficult position, who has to flash out to safety.
And Jinzhao gets himself out to safety after getting cancelled on that little hook, which is a bit nasty for him. Meteor Haichao, the deadly duo from LGD, wandering again. They're on vision. Or off of vision, they're on their own pink wards. And here comes the fight.
Oh, into the rocket. It's going to be a little bit too late to get any value, but the turnaround damage on the Equalizer is huge. The Devour comes on through, but Crisp is charmed up, and Tom Kench walks into the willing arms of Haichao again this game. It's a 1-for-1, all things said and done.
ZDZ's cross-mapping, so he might get himself some pressure on the top lane turret, but you don't even have any of the Void Grubs. So you don't have any buffs to towers, you're not able to really threaten that, whereas on the other side, any member of LGD, if they start cross-mapping, feels like they're going to be very, very effective at doing so. LGD, very comfortable. They're also, from these plays as well, they're dropping vision in the enemy jungle. That's what allowed them to make the back half of that play. Jinzhao, yeah, caught out a little bit too far. I think he's had one of the weaker games for LGD, but hey, it doesn't matter. If you're a Nautilus, sometimes you just die for the hell of it anyway. That's just what the champion does. And he's done his job in just making sure that this team comp functions with just getting some CC onto that first target. Light does have an Infinity Edge. That is a breakpoint for Weibo. There is every chance that a reset team fight could come through on the same way. You just have to, I guess if you're a Weibo fan, wait and pray to see if Light can get onto the board.
He's got a slightly more aggressive itemization than Cap. He's actually gone for the Phantom Dancer second, because he's kind of aware he may well be jumped on by a number of people, and that ability to dance his way backwards, that kind of pseudo ghost from auto attacking, must feel pretty good there. Works very well with Zaya's W in particular to give you that additional move speed to dance and place your way in fights.
And Haichao, he hates stacks, he hates snowballing, he hates me personally. So basically, whenever you see a needlessly large rod in inventory and a high stack Dark Seal, that could have been a Magi's. It's 1250 gold for the upgrade, or actually slightly less than that. I think it's 150, 150 now.
Yeah.
But basically, it's the same kind of margin of kind of gold, right? And particularly since you're capped out on your stacks now. Can be quite valuable. Having the extra move speed from a couple of those items, which of course he doesn't have now, quite valuable against stuff like the Renekton, who needs to have high mobility to, or like punish low mobility to try and be a valuable champion in late game. Of course, that's hardest to do when people have move speed, so that's a slight gripe that's a point away. You know, we had some great Ahri games from Rookie yesterday. I have to keep tabs on this. You know, I've got to have an Ahri leaderboard at this point. LPL has been picking a lot of it, not always to the best success. Xiaohu trying to get himself some success on the Annie though once more, as he's trying to slip off a vision in the way that Xiaohu has done for a great many years. He's kind of the master of vision play from the LPL macro. He's not had a great game at it so far.
I feel like, unfortunately, I've said that quite a lot this year in general. Xiaohu is a legendary figure within the LPL, a legendary figure within League of Legends in general. I think he's the most winning MSI player of all time by a pretty clear margin. This guy has been such a good player for the LPL, bringing them so much joy when, for a long time, the LPL just could not get an international trophy. Season 5 MSI kind of notwithstanding, and he was a big light for that. No pun, of course, to his AD carry, but Yanni hasn't really landed a big Tibbers as yet. Hasn't really been the game changer that he so often has been in years past.
And this is the champion, the Annie, which has been that comfort pick for a lot of our mid laners this year who have struggled in the last year or so too. I think Tanyuan also falls into that bracket who really used this pick. Weibo, they're trying to push up and look for one of these split picks. I think they realize they're not going to win whenever multiple people have the same screen. Jinzhao doesn't manage to lock up Xiaohu under that turret. Weibo once again struggling to actually land a play. I don't mind the initial attempt to just say we've got to split the map, but now the problem is you have the Ahri and the Xayah, the Stein carries, pushing in mid and bot lane. If they ever reach a tower, that tower's gone because of course, mages do extra damage to towers based on their AP now. And when you've got so much AP on an Ahri, that's one thing. And of course, Xayah is Xayah, and they both have the 6 grubs. So but they can't really afford to cross map against LGD too hard. That's why they can't stay topside here. They have to back off. And now as Baron is up and available too, if they move too quickly and they miss someone out in the net as well, every chance that a kill comes through, Baron started, game over.
Yeah, and obviously Birdle with the Ignite, one lane pretty hard, but as this game's gone on a little bit further, it's been harder to maintain that CS lead, and you can see that Weibo have been trying to prey on that lack of teleport and lack of ability to move around the map. A little bit with ZDZ in particular, with shoving into the tier 2 there in that top side a few times, but as you said, there are no grubs. It's not really led to that much, aside from ZDZ kind of just about reclaiming a CS lead for the first time this game. But does 10 CS at this point in the game really matter? Not really, frankly, guys. Not really. It's a bit late for that. It does get to a second item. Of course, the Maw of Malmortius is fully upgraded too. So actually, ZDZ's damage is at an okay point this game, but he needs to get onto a valuable target and get enough time to blow them up. I just don't know how realistic that is.
The thing is, the Maw is great versus the Ahri and the Rumble, but that's ignoring what can happen as a low mobility top player into Xayah Feathers. It can be hellish. So Kepler, you know, a player which you talked up an awful lot coming into this, on the Xayah, which he's very comfortable with and did very well down in the LPL, LDL level, flashes forward, misses, and sadly for LGD, now Flash Hook not going to be much of a starting play of anything.
Of course it is the Nautilus who's running the Hex Flash. Jin Zhao not going to be too worried about the fact he's down that Flash. It was a worthy option. The picture we can see ZDZ's not here. We'll need to teleport shortly as the Equalizer comes on through. Crisp actually gets out of dodge. Xiaohu needs to be afraid trying to throw down the Serpentine and does avoid enough of the skill shots, and ZDZ holds his nerve, gets the turret, and the LGD can't land the engage on the other side.
So LGD, when they don't have something like Birdall and a flanking Aatrox, they have struggled to make some of these big plays. Haichao does get the charm there. He checks out the brush, and that correctly does so. He's going towards the Zhonya's as the third item. Again, Zhonya is actually a much powerful item in terms of actual damage compared to last season, because it is 120 AP. So Haichao not dropping too much in regards to that in this build, but it can be hard to play out the Zhonya's angle, especially when you're going to potentially get stunned into death by Annie Tibbetts. He does need to be afraid of that. The gold lead is still there for LGD. They do still have very powerful carries, but they are slowing down a little bit. Feels like they've been trying to play respectfully, particularly Xiaohao and Xiaohu walking across the map. They're trying to get some some topside vision, but they're not really doing this with much intent.
Currently, there's an ult available. ZDZ very low, does have the dominance and a flash, so could still be kind of baiting it. Will manage to slice his way into a bush, and without real knowledge of where all of Weibo are, don't want to force too much. But now we're going over towards this rub buff, which is now stolen. Over goes
Xiaohao.
Xiao, why?
Oh god, that is just not what you want from your jungler. When this Baron is up on top side, Haichao does end up pulling his ult towards bot side, because there's 3 little dots below the HP bar, which means that he's held ZDZ to account. Both of them going to recall, potentially teleport back in. LGD start the Baron. No smite available from Weibo.
Be a 3-man contest. Finally, ZDZ backs can maybe look to teleport in. Will not happen. Jin Zhao lands a big depth charge. Light running away fast as he can, but I do not think the speed of Light is as fast as the death bars are beginning to grow. Oh man, Weibo wipe once more. Double kill over towards Kipler. Make that a triple kill, actually. And this Xayah just pulls the feathers back and proves that the sun ain't shining today for Weibo Gaming.
Yeah, Light left alive, but Weibo can't get their AD carry to be the main character. This is how Weibo win games. It is about just Light nowadays. It was last year too, even with the Weiwei, the Shy roster. A lot of the time it did default to, let's just play for Light and hope that he can carry the late game, which is such a far cry from how he used to play as the over-aggressive AD carry in LNG back in 2020 when he went to Worlds for the first time. It's been a while since then, but what can he do here? I mean, Meteor sat there with the Crescent Guard. Xin Zhao has always been a good answer into the Jinx because he just stopped Jinx being a ranged champion. And the rest of the team used the duration of that invincibility ult to make sure they can win the fight.
Right over to Birdall as well. Saw Xiaohu burned every cooldown trying to keep his AD carry alive. And Birdall, bring up his name, he ends up getting killed. I was about to say he jumped on Xiaohu and just roasted him alive in the last fight, but this time around, a good pick off from Xiaohao. Denies a potential split push angle and does get them something here for Weibo.
So Dragon is up, and Weibo potentially claiming themselves that against the run of play. However, against 6 grubs and huge items, LGD are going to slaughter 3 turrets, then go towards top side after they've taken the inhibitor too. So Weibo, while they have taken the Dragon, what are they going to lose for it? Crisp on vision right now, because he's on minions. He's going to get caught, flashes away.
Does so. It's the ult from Haichao. In goes Xiaohao, trying to get some damage down onto Meteor, who doesn't pop the Crescent Guard quite yet. Big stun! Finally, Xiaohu gets something, but it's too little too late. He dies for it into the backside. Haichao with a reset can maybe look to get over the wall here. He's a little bit afraid of Xiaohao, who's still dangerous. Crisp finally devours Light, but he's dead as Kepler eviscerates him. You wonder why I was bringing something about this player. Get your binoculars out. We're going bird watching in the LPL.
Haichao goes golden as LGD claim the podium, at least for the first game. Weibo, this is a team which has struggled an awful lot this split. This is not the Weibo of 2023. This is not your world finalists. This is a team that is struggling to make LPL playoffs, and LGD dig the nails in game 1.
Kepler comes in, has a great Xayah performance. Haichao in the mid lane, a player who has been at points a fantastic playmaker, but maybe not the most inconsistent, the most considered with them. This time around, they managed to land up well and truly heads. And Weibo Gaming, they looked a little lost. The early game went horribly wrong for them, and they never managed to find their way out of it.
And that mid jungle, Xiao Hao, Xiao Hu, we really should have been asking Xiao why. Those plays were really not it. And thank you everyone for joining us on our co-stream for this more formal cast of the LPL. It feels like, particularly when we're seeing Weibo like this, you'll have seen on the mainstream, you'll have seen on our streams as well. Weibo have struggled. This is a team now, I mean, just looking at the playoffs bracket as we come closer towards it,